als Salz und Licht.
Weltbeweger.
Gespräche über Gottes Wirken heute und Mission weltweit. Herzlich willkommen, liebe Missionsbegeisterten. Ich begrüße euch einmal mehr zu einer Sonderepisode von Weltbeweger, dem Podcast der Allianz-Mission. Hier sprechen wir über Gottes Wirken weltweit und Mission heute. Heute eine Sonderausgabe aus trauriger und aktuellem Anlass und hat einen Hilferuf erreicht aus Indien. Und zwar hat der Partnergemeindebund der Freien Evangelischen Gemeinden in Indien, mit dem wir über den Internationalen Bund Freier Evangelischer Gemeinden, den IFEG, verbunden sind, darüber informiert, dass es zu starken Ausschreitungen in der Region Manipur gekommen ist. Und deshalb sind wir heute in diesem Call verbunden mit dem Präses des Partnergemeindebundes in Indien, also dem Präses des Bundes Freier Evangelischer Gemeinden in Indien, Lal. Wir werden mit ihm das Gespräch auf Englisch führen. Wer sagt, ich möchte auf Deutsch etwas lesen, den verweise ich gerne auf unsere Homepage unter allianzmission.de/Indien ist ein aktueller Bericht zu finden. Lal, I'm welcoming you to the podcast. Thank you very much for taking the time. And it's great that we had a possibility to talk.
Yeah, thank you so much, Simon. And thank you and greetings to all our friends there in Germany.
Lal, you are president of the Federation of Free Evangelical Churches in India, the ECFI, and we are connected through the International Federation of Free Evangelical Churches, the IFEG. Tell us a little bit more about your federation. How many churches and how many members are there, and where in India are they located?
Okay, Simon, let me just say that we trace our roots to the year 1910, when a young missionary from Wales by the name of Watkin Roberts had come to the southern part of Manipur, which is the Gospel of John in a language that wasn't even ours. It's just a similar language, which my language is called Mar, H-M-A-R. It's a tribal language. And it was only in 1972 that we formally adopted the name the Evangelical Free Church of India. So now the EFCI is 51 years old as of this year. And some listeners, the senior ones, might remember my father, the late Reverend Dr. Rulne Kumpakungte. God used him to lead the EFCI as the president of our federation from 1979 till 2006, 27 consecutive years. And we became a member of the IFEC in 1994 during my father's presidency. So right now, our last census was submitted in December 2022 by the churches, and we have 321 local churches in India and 117 pastors, including probationary pastors and, for example, myself, who is also an administrator. So altogether, we just have 117 pastors for 321 churches. Our membership has grown steadily, not too fast, but we are now 50,740 as of last year. And this is comprised by 10,001 households. And we're found mostly here in Northeast India, in the states of Meghalaya, Manipur, Assam, Tripura, Mizoram, and then in other parts of India, such as New Delhi side, and Punjab, and Haryana, and Chandigarh, and Uttar Pradesh. And also we support a lot of work in places like even in the Andaman Nicobar Islands and Orissa and places like that. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that insight. You really know your numbers, I have to mention. And it is impressive that the history of the Free Evangelical Churches in India is also a little bit of family history, as far as I get you.
Yes, it is, yes.
So for our listeners living here in Western Europe, what does it mean to be a Christian generally and a free evangelical Christian specifically in India? And also, how does life for Christians differ from living in rural communities to living in cities?
Okay, you know that in India is a very populous country. I think we overtook China as being the most populous. And so at the same time, Christianity is a minority religion here in India. I think the last census, which was held way back in 2011, it's held every 10 years, but because of the COVID in 2022, no census was conducted. But in India, Christianity makes up just 2.3% of the total population. But that, in figure-wise, it's about 26 million Christians here in India. And like as a comparison, Hindus would be 79.8%, and then Muslims will be 14.2% and things like that. And so Christianity would be like we're like the third largest in the country. Being a Christian, like, you know, as a whole, has become increasingly difficult over the years here in India. Rightly, I mean, especially after the Hindu government came into power in 2014. You must have heard of the BJP regime. And we have had a lot of difficulties, and even in Northeast India, prior to that, it was quite peaceful. We could do our own, whatever we wanted to do. We were not disturbed as such. But again, from 2014, things started becoming very difficult for all of us. We had received a lot of increasing day by day. There's a persecution because we're Christians and we're minorities. And this happened not only to the Christians, but also to the Muslims as well. And so we have reports of, my church in particular was not affected, but churches were vandalized or destroyed, and pastors and priests were killed or, you know, severely beaten up. But wherever Christians were in a majority, it was peaceful. And even for all the faiths, because we didn't disturb anyone else, you know, we just did what we were meant to do. And so we were just, you know, practicing what Jesus taught us to love one another and, you know, love your neighbor as yourself. And so that was the situation here in Northeast India. But just recently, they've been even taking the numbers. Where are churches located? How many people are going there? They're taking census of the churches, which makes us very suspicious, even though they said that this was not done by us, it's done by the police. But I don't think that is the case. And you asked about how is it to be a Christian in a rural area as compared to a city? I mean, just in a city, just by sheer number of the population density. Like, for example, here in Northeast India, I think the biggest city we have is Guwahati, just about 100 kilometers north of here. It's a gateway to Northeast India, and they have a population of 1 million plus, 1,100,000. And then, like here in Shillong, we live here in Shillong, Meghalaya, where our headquarters is. This is in the state of Meghalaya, just north of Bangladesh, but we live in a high elevation, about 1,500 meters, 1,500, 1,600 meters. Here, the population is just below 500,000. And then again, you talked about Manipur, which we'll be talking about later on. Imphal, the city, has a population of a little over 500,000. And then you go to the metropolitan cities like Kolkata, that's like 15 million. And New Delhi's got 32 million. And Mumbai has 21 million. That's a lot of people, isn't it? So yes. In that, if you take a percentage of Christian, we're totally, you know, minority, like just a tiny speck. And so it'll be difficult. It is difficult to even, you know, freely live a Christian life in some places, especially more so these days, people being very religious centric, or, you know, like trying to outdo the other. And so they take away our freedom. And so it's becoming very difficult here in India.
How does, as a Christian, how would you experience everyday difficulties in your work, in your family life, in your neighborhood when you're a Christian?
Well, Simon, here, if I have to speak personally here, I'm in a very safe zone. Here, Shillong is about 60% Christians. And so we don't face any problems as such. But that isn't so for others that are living in the cities. You know, it's very difficult for them. We more so these days, we have people being beaten up. And, you know, like they take advantage of the situation when Hindu is in power. The majoritarian or something like that, like a majority are ruling and they there's no opposition strong enough to curtail what they're doing, and so it becomes very difficult for them, the Christians there. So they are, cautiously taking steps. There's even an anti-conversion law, and so even when we are having baptism services, especially in our church groups, we use WhatsApp media, sharing pictures and all those things. We have to be careful that when we want to publicize or like some baptisms and stuff like that, we have to be very careful, extra careful, that we don't fall in the limelight of those that are in opposition to what we're doing as Christians, as a church, as missionaries. So it's very difficult. We have to be very cautious at all times.
We got a very it's a sad point why we're calling today. We're calling because you reported recently that there has been an outrage against Christians going on in the area of Manipur. You've already been talking about what happened there.
Yes, Simon, Manipur is a very small state in Northeast India. One has to look at the map. A lot of people that are not familiar with the whole map of India, they don't look beyond Calcutta, but there's a small, tiny stretch beyond Bangladesh, and in sandwiched between Bangladesh and Myanmar and China, right in the corner. That's Northeast India. In there, Manipur is one of the states there, and a lot of our churches are located there. In fact, 30% of our churches are over there. And
30%.
30%. And on May 3rd, as I had written in my report of this year, May 3rd, the Tribal Unity Peace Rally was conducted in the 9 hill districts. And the one, especially in Churachandpur, which is in south inside Manipur, they conducted a massive rally, and they were protesting, having a peaceful gathering, actually protesting the government's recent action that took place, I think, in March, April, where they were trying to evict us from our lands or even our houses. Saying that these are farmlands, these are protected forests. Like we have even my own brother. The house that my dad built is over 60 years old. They were trying to take away that land, even like that. And so it was all because the majority Métis non-Christians that who have ruled Manipur. They even had kings in those days. They say that they're sandwiched in a tiny area in the flat land is around 700 square miles. And then they're not allowed to purchase land in the hills, which are dominated by the tribals. But so they wanted to be included in what they call the scheduled tribe list of the government, which gives this tribal list gives reservation, gives the people in that the right to possess land where they live, and also as well as reservation in jobs and colleges and stuff like that. For example, like if you're a scheduled caste, you would get 15% of the seats reserved for you. And if you're from the scheduled tribe, you would get 7.5%. And then 27% is reserved for the other backward castes in the government jobs and colleges. And so, though the Métis brothers are faring very well in as far as economy or economic activities or politics or education are concerned, they produce a lot of engineers and doctors and things like that, and civil servants. Yet they still want a piece of the whole pie. They don't want just what they have. They even want to be included in the tribal list, which was reserved for the tribals, and so that they could advance in education, in jobs. Because even with this reservation, we can hardly get into it. Because the greater majority, I don't represent the rural area. I probably represent the more educated people, and so my fellow tribals are really, they don't have any other means except through this reservation, and so the majority Métis even want this for themselves. If they took that, nowhere would our people be anywhere without this help. And so this was the problem. And so these were the stuff that they were objecting to. And so they had this rally just to, unite the tribals all together, which make up about 40% of the population of all the area of Manipur, to move the government from not doing these things, to protect ourselves. We need unity. So that was what happened, actually.
Yeah.
That time,
The peaceful demonstration to have the possibility to keep their own land.
Yes, that's correct.
Mm.
So so they had the rally, but at the end of the rally, something happened, and it went such an extreme that we never thought it would happen like that. Like how the other group, the Métis, what they did was during the we don't know exact sequence of events, but what happened was that when people were returning home from the rally in Churchandpur, the Métis miscreants had come from Imphal Valley and burned down this war memorial, the Kuki Anglo War Memorial. That infuriated the people. Even though it's a small memorial gate, it signified something, and so they were instigating that, and so that they had skirmishes, and then they attacked each other, and then overnight it escalated so terribly. All in Imphal Valley, they had, within 48 hours, they destroyed over 200 churches. It's amazing how they did that. One interesting thing was that here in Meghalaya, Shillong, Meghalaya, we were going to have our political elections to elect the state legislature. And so, as has been done by the government in the past, they would ask all people in possession of licensed guns to submit their guns to the police stations. Okay. And so my father has guns, and so he's passed away, but the guns are with me. So I submitted that. And in Manipur, where my brother Isaac lives, he phoned me up and said, got this information that we had to submit guns. Dad's gun is marked in Manipur. I said, no, I already submitted that. It's okay, just tell the police. So why are you submitting your guns there in Manipur? You don't have elections. I don't know. But what we were finding out was that all the hill districts were asked to submit their guns, the tribal Christians. At the same time, what we're finding out is that Métis were giving 10,000 new gun licenses at the same time.
Okay.
And so, they were, what we're feeling was they were all planning stuff already. And so, in my report, I couldn't write everything because that was an appeal, but for those that are listening, there's just that there must have been a great conspiracy just to wipe out us, the helpless Christians living in the hills. And so, and then as we continue, after the guns were issued, at the same time on May 4th, after the event, a huge mob of Métis in Imphal looted around 2,000 to 3,000 automatic assault rifles from the armory of the police, the state police, and thousands of ammunitions along with it. And so these were in the hands of people. We were finding out later on that these were people, they call themselves the Métis Lipun and the Aram Bai Tengol. These are Métis nationalists. They said that they were established to preserve their culture, the Métis culture, but then we're finding out more and more that they were they're linked with the RSS of the Hindus, and then they were working hand in glove with the chief minister. Chief minister would be something like in Germany, your minister president or something. What do you call president of a state? So this is also a BJP government. And all these years, all these months, since the event, nothing has been done against this chief minister. In other places, if it was not a BJP government, he would be taken down already. They would put in place what they call president's rule, will be directly because law and order has failed miserably there, and then the civilians are not safe. Even my relatives who are the most senior police officers, they're helpless. They couldn't do. Even my niece, who's in the Indian police service, All India Police Service, she had to flee for her life, even though she's a high-ranking police officer. So, order was just. So these people, the nationalists, the Métis nationalists or the terrorists, were working hand in glove with the chief minister under his leadership. And so nobody felt safe. So they went on a rampage, and as written in my report, that not only did they burn the houses and chase away the people, the tribals, but they were also looting their possessions, shamelessly just going up with vehicles and trucks and loading, taking away their TVs, their goods and furniture and whatnot. So it was happening like this. And so our people had to, and one interesting thing I didn't write in my report was that, relatives have fled, and they told me that, in hindsight, when we think about it, there was a survey going on in our areas. They came and took our pictures, our names, how many men were there in our households. They looked in the back of our houses, our property, just to see how things were. I think they were planning months ahead. So they just wanted something to do this. So it's like even inside the Imphal city, they had marked all the tribal houses with red paint, a dot on their walls, so that later on these very houses were attacked and burned down. So thousands of houses were burned down even in this short time. So this is what has been happening. No more in Imphal, but now it's happening in the peripheral areas, in the villages. So what they are doing is the Métis are coming up with their automatic rifles and whatnot, and in hordes, like thousands of them, hundreds of them, coming in groups, attacking, going up to the hills and attacking the villages. So to protect the women and children in our properties, each village has set up a defense force or a frontline worker with handmade guns or licensed single barrel guns and whatnot. But at the same time, they found out how to make. They remember how to make gunpowder and making cannons and whatnot. So that's what the tribals have done, because the tribes, even my father and his father and generations, have been hunters, warriors, always with guns and very sharp shooters. So we're familiar with the use of guns, but it's very sad that it's being used against humans right now.
Really is devastating attack you're reporting about. And as you describe it, the only logical explanation seems to me that it must have been organized, talking about these vast numbers of destroyed villages, of destroyed houses. It is not something that could happen in such a short time spontaneously. Methinks. So why this focus also especially on the churches, destroying the churches? Is it about destroying all the social places of the Christians, of the tribes, to drive them away from the land, or why that?
I think it was. I think they were trying to appease the central government that they're against the Christians. I don't know why they were against the Christians. We were wondering also why are they attacking churches. So this is from what all they did was, people try to say it's not a religious thing, but then it is. It's a Hindu versus Christians. But at the same time, there's also non-Hindu Métis. They're going back to their old religion, telling the Métis Christians, putting more pressure on the Métis Christians, whom we have converted over the years. We call it a mission. And so they are also fighting their own brothers, their own people that are Christians. And trying to convert them to their, to shun Christianity and go back to their old religions. So I think they're by attacking the churches, I think they were trying to hit us where it hurts the most, which we love, which is God and Jesus Christ, where we worship. Even the churches they're burning among the Métis are mostly built by us tribal Christians. We support missionaries. We have been trying to work hard with these Christians, the Métis, a lot for many years, I think. And it's very difficult because of their deep-rooted faith in Hinduism and animism. But, they have been attacking us like that. And so, but I think all this has brought us together, the Christians together in Manipur especially.
The International Federation of the Free Evangelical Churches has condemned the riots in the strongest terms, and also called for solidarity and for support for its partner in India.
Yes.
Why has there been hardly any public reporting on the riots so far? Just for here in Western Europe, that is what I received from media. There's just no public notice. Why is that way?
Yeah, that's what we were wondering. Like, I used to tell, even I have friends, even my daughter's in the US, and I asked her, have you heard about this? She said, no, we don't see anything in the news. One thing was that, like for the national press, it's not very important. I guess we're minorities. But then at the same time, shortly after the violence started, internet was suspended. It was banned for all the internet providers in Manipur. They were ordered by the government that you must suspend your internet services. So this has been going on for 50 days. And they have really facing hardships in online banking, or those parents that are at home in Manipur sending money to their children in different colleges and schools outside the state. It has been very difficult for them. So this has been going on for 50 days. And with the closure of the internet, they're not able to send out information or transmission of information or visuals or videos and audio recordings. It might go against their false narrative they're trying to play out there. So so like when I had an interview with the executive committee, they asked what they should do. I said, please make it public. Please tell your administrators, your local government or your state governments about this problem that we're facing, that is being hushed. Like they don't want to see that things are bad. Even our very own Prime Minister Modi, 50 days he has not said one word about Manipur. This is really we're wondering why has he not even said one word. It took one whole month for the union minister to come over to Manipur, and he came and he stayed for 3 days, meeting with the different groups, the Métis group separately, and the tribal groups in the south separately, and the north separately. And he told them that 15 days, don't engage in any violence, and we'll try to solve this thing. But while he was there also, tribal houses were being burned by the Métis. And so nothing it kept on going on, So and then now, a lot of stuff on especially YouTube is there, but we're finding out that the Métis are using our own videos, saying that they're the victims instead, when just trying to put a false news out there, and we're finding out very painfully that they're using that against us. So you won't hear stories of, like, for example, how a 5-year-old boy was shot in the head, a tribal boy, by the Métis snipers. They said that the Métis are interpreting that this 5-year-old boy was torturing the Métis and burning their homes. How can a 5-year-old do that, right? For example. And also, like, for example, another one, when a tribal woman was praying in the village, a sniper shot her dead inside the church. She was a 70-year-old lady. And then another one was a tribal woman had this 7-year-old son, and they thought that they would, the Métis would be, and the police would be merciful upon them, and they could seek their urgent medical help by traveling an ambulance from the hills to the Imphal city. Instead, they were stopped by a mob and burned alive inside their ambulance. So this is the situation, Simon. It's really, really sad that such things are happening.
Thank you for the insight. They're really touching and disturbing both ways. The UCFI has also lost 13 of its churches. So friends and relatives of yours also had to flee. You wrote about that some of the people or the Christians had to flee to the jungle to stay there. What reports do you hear from the people that have fled these days? Where are they now? What is the situation in terms of medicine, of humanitarian aid? What do you hear?
Yes, Simon, we lost 13 churches. Thankfully, not more than that. Others also lost a lot of their churches. But my friends and relatives had to flee to the army camp, not to the jungles. The people that went to the jungles were other people. But unfortunately, my friends and relatives could flee to the army camps for safety. But they've all left that and able to flee further away. And some of them are here in Shillong, and some are different places. But at the same time, others are stuck there in the camps. We're not well fed or anything. And even my own mother is there in Manipur. I asked her to come, and can you escape and come and stay with us? She said, I cannot leave your brother and his family here. So she's staying there, and she's 78 years old, and she would text me with her phone every day at around 5 a.m. in the morning, telling me that they had a safe night. And so I was very happy with that. Well, so these people that have fled, they've gone to neighboring states like Mizoram, which has been very helpful to them, and Assam and Shillong, for example. But sadly, here in Shillong, those people that have coming, the displaced persons from Manipur, the locals are saying, don't give your house for rent to these people. Where will they go to? And so, the relief center that we have in other places, the locals are going there and saying that make sure you return home after there's normalcy. So, it's been very difficult for that. And so, as regards to what they need, I think, Simon, we continue to urgently need to provide safety for the people that have displaced. We need to be able to provide shelter. Of course, food is necessary, as well as medicines and even clothing. God said to love your enemies. And so, even just the other day, I ordered instructed my finance department, send this money to our Métis brothers, Christians there who don't even have change of clothing. So we sent some money over there, to the people there, so they could buy change of clothes. They just ran away. Everybody's running away from that. But I'm now with the monsoons coming up. Now we have problems of mosquitoes, and malaria, and so we have to provide medicines and also mosquito nets. But Simon, what I really feel sad to report to you is that yesterday we had an executive committee meeting, and I asked my finance department, can you give a report on our standing regarding our relief fund? They said, we have hardly 5,000 rupees left. We have already distributed what we have collected internally. Yet, in the relief camp that we have, what we're having to say is that you can stay on, but we cannot provide food for you anymore. Where will they get their food? They don't have any access to money. They don't work. A lot of them are hand-to-mouth people that were daily wage workers. And so our situation hasn't improved much in the last 50 days since it started. People that have money, they have income, they're able to go here and there, but those they can't, they don't have anywhere else to go. So I really feel personally very helpless. The government also hasn't been doing their part in this regard. So I really would appreciate that if the German Federation would pray for us and prayerfully consider helping as much as they can. This is a very urgent plea from my side as president of the Evangelical Free Church of India. And I pray that God will speak to your hearts about the genuineness of this need and urgency of it. And so please be in prayer with us for this so that we can offer help to those that are in desperate situations.
Yes, we'll definitely pass that on and do that. Tell me, what can we pray for you personally in your position and in the search for providing aid for all those refugees?
Yes, Simon, thank you for that. You can pray for wisdom from God to lead in this time of suspense. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We want that normalcy will go back on, but I doubt that for a very long time people feel safe enough to return to their homes. And even their homes that have been vacated, they're occupied by strangers, So that also there, and that pray that our denomination continues to be strong, even though 30% is not able to do anything. Even in Manipur, I asked them, why are you not in church? Why are you not able to have church service? I asked my mother also, and I asked another leader, and he said, well, you see, all the people that have been killed are still in the morgues. We have not been able to bury them. We cannot have a church service when we have not buried the dead. So if they're not able to have that, they just go for a prayer meeting and come out, but they're not able to conduct church services and collect offerings, like that. And plus, at the same time, there's a lot of collections going on to provide for the workers and the volunteers on that side. So please pray also for the Christian tribals, for God's protection, and also protection from to be from attackers, because they're only defending. They're not being offensive. They're just defending their own homes and land and families and churches. So, from the Hindus. So, they just have their single handmade guns and stuff like that. But, we don't want those to be used. Let God peace prevail. One thing, Simon, very interesting thing. I mean, I'm taking a lot of your time already, but there are a lot of reports that miraculous things are being seen by the Hindus. They said that they shoot at these things and they're shooting out all their guns and nothing is there. Whereas the Christians, they don't see anything. Or they saw like they were trying to attack a village, but a really big sheet of rain came and they couldn't progress anywhere. They were trying to go there with 30 vehicles and, the raid of village, but it couldn't happen. And they would see things like that, or they would hear singing in the churches that they had destroyed and stuff like that, even though nobody's there. And so they're quite spooked also at the same time. And so I think these are all miracles that God is performing there. And, in spite of this fighting, pray that Christian tribals or Christian métis are a great inspiration, that we can continue spreading the love of Jesus Christ in times of war. And it's very important that we are able to do that. And finally, to pray for peace and reconciliation that will last. Lasting peace is what we need.
Danke für Ihr Interesse und dass Sie so Teil von Gottes weltweiter Mission sind.